Welcome to Taking Care of Business on News Talk 1180 KERN for the best in Saturday Talk Radio at 1 o'clock and on 1230 KGEO at 10 o'clock on Saturday, and for the very best in Wednesday Talk Radio on 1410 KERI, the Christian station. We're now on 1000 KKIM in Albuquerque, New Mexico, and also 3 times on the internet on knookmedia.com, serving Richmond, Oakland, and the San Francisco Bay Area. And you can catch any of our old shows on the internet at Clay and Marty Show. Your host is Clay Koerner, and I'm Marty Pay, and our producer is the infamous Greg Held. Hey, Clay, great show last week with Dr. Waleed Ferris, Fox News contributor and the author of a great new book, The Lost Spring.
Well, he emphasized why Obama should not have been elected.
Well, yeah, the ineptitude when it comes to foreign affairs, and
not just foreign, but domestic as well.
Sure, but I mean, from Waleed Ferris's perspective, it's foreign because of his expertise. But the scary thing to me is what Israel is going to be faced to do. They're going to have to do something if this keeps up this way.
And they will.
Yes, they will. We also had fun with our second guest, Jane Levy, talking about baseball. Her 2 books are The Lost Boy, The Story of Mickey Mantle, and A Lefty's Legacy, story of our own Sandy Koufax. It was an interesting interview.
And the new book, Babe Ruth, coming out.
Yeah, she's working on
that. That was quite a change, wasn't it, from foreign affairs to just local sports?
Yes. Yeah, it was kind of fun.
National
sports, but that was kind of a fun.
It was a great show.
Yes, it was, yeah. But we've got another great show today. In the second half, we have the president of the Pacific Research Institute, author of 3 great books on Obamacare, Sally Pipes.
One of my favorite guests since I am into Obamacare.
Yes. But on the phone now in the first half, we have a gentleman running for a very, very important congressional seat. Gentleman that I think we're going to hit it off with real well. L.A. County Deputy District Attorney, Elan Carr. Elan, welcome to Taking Care of Business.
Well, Clay, Marty, thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be with you.
Well, you're a good judge of character, I can tell already.
I don't know. He's talking to us.
Yes. Well, what are you going to do? You got to start at the top and then work your way down, right?
Or opposite.
Yeah. So, Elan, you're down in my favorite neck of the woods, down in the El Segundo area right now, huh?
That's correct. El Segundo is part of our district, and we're thrilled. It's got a lot of defense contractors down there who are keeping Americans safe, and it's a pleasure to be able to represent them.
Well, I want to start off thanking you for your service. I understand you were a JAG officer in Iraq at one time, in Afghanistan?
Well, that's exactly right. I am a JAG officer, although actually when I deployed to Iraq, I spent much of my time there not doing JAG work, but I helped lead an anti-terrorism team. And so this was a team of the U.S. Central Command, CENTCOM, and we had missions around the country meant to save American lives. And I was immensely proud to be able to lead a team that went around the country to save our American soldiers and keep them safe. And then in the second part of my tour in Iraq, then I functioned as a JAG officer, but I also, a special kind of anti-terrorism assignment, I prosecuted terrorists. So those who had hurt Americans, I'm the one who was able to bring them to justice and prosecute them. And so I actually have seen the threats to our safety from both sides. On one hand, leading a team meant to prevent terrorist attacks, and then on the other hand, punishing terrorists who did hurt our soldiers. And so it's to keep. There's nothing better than having a job that keeps Americans safe and protects people from those who would do us harm.
Well, you also kept Iraqis safe by keeping America safe.
Well, that's exactly right. And I tell you, I was inspired by the brave Iraqis who, contrary to what you see in the press, there was enormous support for our presence there, and a lot of Iraqis were fighting hard to build a society that was pluralistic and tolerant and democratic. And I was inspired that people from all walks of life would tell me that the rule of law will prevail in Iraq. Terrorism won't win. The rule of law will win. And boy, that's inspiring.
Our guest by phone is L.A. County Deputy District Attorney and a candidate for the 33rd Congressional District, Elan Carr.
Elan, both Marty and I served in the service, and so we're really proud to talk to anybody that served in the service. And
thank you both.
My biggest concern is that we advertise that we're going to leave the country. We're setting ourselves up for failure. We're setting the people over there up to be murdered, actually, when we're not there to protect them. Don't you agree?
Well, I think that we left Iraq and are currently leaving Afghanistan in a very precipitous way. Look, nobody intends for our troops to remain in these foreign theaters indefinitely. The idea was to help Iraqis build a society that's stable and tolerant and democratic that would be an inspiration to the Arab world. And we started to see that happening. Look, who wasn't inspired to see Iraqis vote, brave, by the way, terrorist attacks in order to go to the polls and vote in record numbers so that they could actually invest in their own future and exercise their democratic rights in a new and free Iraq. But the way we left endangered all the work we did there. And that's unfortunate. And another thing that endangers our work there is that we're not dealing with Iran the way we need to deal with Iran. Look, I know a lot about Iran because when I spent that nearly a year in Iraq, Iranian training and Iranian weapons and Iranian proxies killed Americans I served with. And today, to roll back sanctions on a regime that is the leading cause of instability and danger in the world today is, I think, misplaced. And I think those policies are unfortunate. One of the reasons I'm running for Congress is to keep Americans safe, from threats overseas, and to keep Americans safe from criminals on our streets.
Foreign and domestic.
And when I see us roll back sanctions on Iran, on a regime that has killed Americans, I think you shake your head, and I think we need change in Washington.
Elan, let me ask you a question that's fairly controversial, and I've asked a lot of or actually every one of our guests that has an expertise in the Middle East. Do you think Israel is going to get to the point where they're going to have to do something on their own unilaterally because we're not going to do anything with Iran?
Well, Israel has made very clear, and look, it's important to remember, Israel is America's best friend in the world. There's no country that votes with Israel more in the UN, that votes with the United States more in the UN. There's no country that has contributed more to U.S. intelligence and U.S. technology than has Israel. And so we really need to be standing with our friends and protecting our friends and not pressuring our friends as we've been doing lately. And I think that when it comes to Israel's security, Israel has every right to defend itself by itself against the threats to its existence. And currently, Iran, remember, this is a country that has said that it aspires to wipe Israel off the map. And when tyrants say they're going to wipe you off the map, and then frantically work to build the very weapons that would allow them to do that, I think that's high time they be taken seriously.
Well, I think,
and so Israel, I think, will have no choice. But if the United States weakens its sanctions regime, the only hope, of course, of getting Iranians to agree diplomatically to what they need to do is the sanctions. And if we do that, I think we're going to force Israel's hand and tragically leave Israel with no choice but to exercise its military option, which it has every right.
Elan, I appreciate the honesty there because it's, this is Munich revisited, and unfortunately we haven't learned the lessons from history, and we're going to have to, ultimately pay for it down the road. Let's talk a little bit about that congressional district that you're running for.
Well, before you do, there's this one comment I want to make about the United States right now.
Go ahead.
Who's afraid of the big bad wolf? Nobody.
Putin's made that real clear.
Putin and others.
Well, I think you're 100% right. When you see Russia, first of all, in ascendant China, and then Russia that is harkening back to its Soviet past, it's deeply troubling. And look, the bottom line is, if we want to keep Americans safe here at home, the United States has to exercise leadership overseas. And that's what we need to do, and that's the kind of change that I'd like to bring to Washington.
Well, that's what we need in Washington, some change.
Yeah, definitely.
Because the last guy that offered change, that's all we have in our pocket now is change.
Very good. Well, and when it comes to Russia, they did exactly what they said they were going to do, and they have not changed in the last 60 years. So why we think they're going to change now is beyond me, because they have not changed. They've done exactly what they did in Czechoslovakia and Hungary and Georgia last year. So they are who they are. So let's talk a little bit. Actually, let's break, and we come back from the break. Let's talk about your congressional race. We'll be back in a moment on Taking Care of Business on Koerner Radio News Talk 1180.